Тому слово надається для доповіді шановному нашому гостю Андре Bresges, Doctor of Science, Professor, Director of the Institute of Physical Education, University of Cologne, Germany. Making creativity teachable, what the A in STEAM really stands for. Thank you. Please.
Thank you. Okay, it's my time to start. Good. Okay, thank you for inviting me to the STEAM conference in Kiev. It's a great honor and a great pleasure. When traveling was still possible, I traveled the world a lot to speak for STEAM education. Wherever I came to, in China, in the USA, in Indonesia and Europe, I met creative people full of hope and ideas. That was in fact a pleasure to work with. So I'm really excited to meet you as community. But STEAM is not new to the education community. Its roots trace back to the Silicon Valley in the United States of America, further down to Europe, to Berlin, to the Bauhaus movement. But it is right now that the STEAM movement really collected STEAM movement. I've seen innovative teams working in Shanghai, China, Shenzhen, Malaysia, Indonesia, Detroit, Amsterdam, everywhere. This movement is fueled by creativity, by innovators like you, but it is also fueled by grave concerns about the shape of the education system. The Minister of Education in Shanghai, when I met her at a huge STEAM conference, she put it best. When she talked to me, she said that the people in China were disappointed by the classical Western STEM education. The classical STEM education would only attract a certain type of personality, a minority, into the very important STEM profession. Many people, and most of them are female, are girls, get the feeling in school that they have no place in STEM, no place in science, in engineering, and that is bad. Dividing the society is absolutely bad in China, as you know, but I was thinking, okay, we have this same effect in Europe, in Germany. It is proven by studies like the Rose study or the study of interest in the sciences by the Institut of Pädagogik der Naturwissenschaften, IPN in Kiel. Dividing the society in people who are good in engineering and physics and science, and a huge majority which feels repulsed, does not feel accepted, and does not find their place here. This is bad, because it are these people that are rejected by science, that are skeptical, that say, okay, I do not believe in climate change, I do not believe that there's a pandemic, which are rejected once by science and feel rejected for the rest of their life. And we are not allowed to make this happen. Everybody should feel that they can contribute to the sciences. And now there's a new thing appearing. This division, that's not new. But what's new is the emerging science of artificial intelligence and automation. You see that China, Europe, and the United States of America are fiercely competing in the field of artificial intelligence and automation. And that is what the Minister of Education in Shanghai said to me, and that really stuck with me. She said, we can clearly see in our factories here in Shanghai, we are producing machines, artificial intelligence, robots, artificial cars, technology that will make obsolete the people that we are educating in our schools. And that really struck to me. Imagine this. how do we teach physics, for example, in school? Quite often we say, okay, there's an experiment and now you have to measure this and to read that and to make a table of it and make a line and interpret this. And how long does it take to teach this to a child? It takes years. Now take this. That was a gift. I brought it from Shanghai, from this very convention. There are a lot of sensors in it. It's quite playful. My kids are 5 years and can work with this. And here's temperature sensors and voltage sensors and whatnot. And I can connect them together in a fashion like this. There are magnets on it. I just can connect them together and they take the measurements and they push it into a Google form in the internet. And there's a Google assistant behind that interprets the data and you are done. So what you can teach to a kid in years, you can solve by a set of toys in 5 minutes. And that's why I said the classical form of teaching physics to school kids is obsolete because the people who learn it that way will become obsolete in years. And now I hear you thinking, but that is the root of physics education, to show them how to measure things. That is the root of education in the sciences. And I ask you, is that already the root? I say it's perhaps the trunk, but it is not the root. What is on the root of science? Innovation, creativity, curiosity, problem solving, pattern recognition. These are very human competencies. And you cannot teach creativity to a machine. You cannot teach empathy to a machine. That is the field where we humans belong to. So we have to ask ourselves, how can we teach creativity to our kids in STEM education? And if you are at this question, you are ready for this talk, because my talk goes on how can we put the A into STEM education, the A for arts. It is not about painting or lab equipment in colors or something. It is about spurring curiosity, ingenuity, creativity into kids while they are performing scientific tasks. And there's good research on how this could be performed. I want to share something to you, because the actual content of my talk I have pre-recorded and put it into a YouTube video. And what I want to do is now I will put it to the chat. And so you can have a look at this later on your own. And I will show it to you. So we will look through the video. The good thing about it, you can teach the Google machine to interpret my voice. So the artificial intelligence has already understood my talk and has already translated it to you in Russia. So whatever I have to say now will be subtitled in Russian language without intervenence by me. So let me share this talk to you by screen share, but you have the link in the YouTube, in the chat channel, and you can put in your own translation into your own language whenever you want. So that is what I want to start. And I hope you can hear the audio too whenever it starts. Please, can Konstantin can give me a thumbs up when the sound is right. Let's start the story from the ancient beginnings of science, technology, engineering, and math. this picture series depicts 6 blacksmiths who are striking their hammers. Plato describes that the great Pythagoras, which we know from math, while carefully observing blacksmiths at their work, found some patterns in the sounds of their hammers, striking iron, that he further investigated. He used bells, water glasses, swords, and flutes. The legend says that this was the birth of the Theoretica Musici, the theory of music and harmony, connecting rules of harmony with the properties of physical objects. It is also a good description of how engineering, as symbolized by the blacksmith, might inspire scientific inquiry, and how art and aesthetics are connected with learning and discovery. There's research about the latter part. Recently, in an article published in Neuroscience and Behavioral Reviews, Pietro Sarossi and his team from the University of Turin found an interesting explanation about what aesthetics is actually good for. The article is aptly named "Stopping for Knowledge" and subtitled "The Sense of Beauty in the Perception Action Cycle." As the subtitle and the journal title indicates, this is serious neuroscience. It is deeply rooted in the predictive coding theory of Carl Friston. What's behind that? For decades, researchers were sure that backpropagation of feedback only works in a computational neural network, because computational designers have designed it into the neural network. But in 1999, Rao and Ballard demonstrated that their computer simulation actually explained a lot of the neuronal activity that was seen in the visual cortex of a human brain. From this moment onwards, Carl Friston propagated the model of predictive coding in the human brain. The higher order functions work tirelessly to develop expectations about what can be seen. If the lower level neurons detect something which they had no prediction for, like this rat that got stuck in the sewer, this travels upwards to drive the development of new categories. The overall goal of the brain is to minimize uncertainty by minimizing the prediction errors. Okay, that rat was not very aesthetic. But if you have seen the so-called fat rat from Germany once, you simply cannot unsee it. It opened a new category in your visual perception system. Now comes the aesthetic part. I am sure that aesthetic is already in the hearts and souls of physics teachers. Just do me a favor and skip with me through the winning photos of the AAPT High School Photo Contest. Here in 2016, we had a baseball bat that was thrown with a glowing spot at its center of mass. You see a beautiful parabola and how the bat rotates around the center of mass. In 2017, we had this beautiful picture of steam fog, droplets of water from the warm lake that cools in the cold air. 2018 had this picture from Jiangsu, spilling hot water from a cup into cold air with minus 20 degrees Celsius. What is it that makes us stop for a minute and dwell with respect into the beauty of nature? Pietro Sarossi and his team extended the predictive coding theory we saw at work with the web tool to explain this. They argue that aesthetic appreciation represents a reward system in the brain that has grown in evolution to support learning processes. They found evidence showing that aesthetic emotions emerge in correspondence with an inhibition of motor behavior, and at the same moment promoting a simultaneous perceptual processing enhancement at the quite basic level of the sensory cortex. To quote Sarossi, ultimately, the observation of beauty could motivate individuals to stop moving and seek further knowledge acquisition, in turn modulating their perceptual learning and memory retrieval. Time-wise, electronic encephalography, or EEG, reveals a sharp increase of prediction errors at the beginning of the stimulus. Prediction errors are relatively easy to detect in EEG. It is Hi, yeah, that's why they call it a blue screen. Hi, sorry for messing with your brain again. What I just produced here was a P300 signal. It occurs 300 milliseconds after the onset of a stimulus and is positive, hence beam towards the skull potential. Typical negative signal occurs 100 milliseconds after a new stimulus is displayed. This is associated with signal encoding, followed by a sharp positive signal after 200 milliseconds, when the stimulus is successfully compared to something you have expected. But you did not expect the flow of my words interrupted by a blue screen. So your brain raised the P300 signal, calling all stations that we have a great prediction area and that needs to capture all attention. That is a what is going on here feeling. Okay, so far. Now, my face does sadly not fit into the aesthetic part of that diagram. So let's better recall the George's Photo Contest winner picture from LPD's Photo Contest 2018. It is aesthetically very pleasing. It contains nature, positive colors, and an open space that does not signal immediate danger. Yet something looks novel and unpredicted in this picture. What are the symmetric structures around Nanjing? These structures captures your attention. You want to learn more, and you read in the description how Nanjing used hot boiling water, splashed the water around in a cup, and made use of the effect that hot water causes more evaporation and creates a circular fog. And the fog turns into ice, and now you are pleased how all falls into place and fits to everything you already know about thermodynamics. What a pleasure, at least if you are a physicist. Now let's look at these pictures from... Okay, let's stop right here for a second, because you have invited me to talk to you personally and not using a video. But I hope this automatic translation of the artificial intelligence had done their work and there were no gross things in it. I can't speak Russian, but I can speak to you by means of an artificial intelligence, and that's a new thing emerging. That's what I say. New things are happening. We have to prepare our students for this future. And I say, getting these students and push them to an endless series of experiments and measurements that they have to perform without being curious in it. That is not the way how we can prepare our students for this future. It was a necessity about 70 years before, when we had these great wars, which we are behind now. Then it was necessary to train a large workforce in factories and research plants to do aerodynamics and all this stuff. They did not need to understand what they are doing. They have just to perform measurements. And a lot of physics teaching comes from this time, because these poor people became workers, scientists, teachers, and a lot of them has taught physics the way they've learned it in the wars. But we are way behind this. And what's happening in front of us, the climate change, the pandemics, and the rise of artificial intelligence, that needs other qualifications. So it is time to go down to the roots of scientific endeavor. And I say what you see in this presentation is one of these roots: the creativity and the curiosity. Stopping for Beauty is the title of this article. And we would stop for beauty here. What is happening here? Why is the water performing such a spectacle? What is behind this? And this is the way to ask questions that we need to have in our kids. The world is amazing. What happens around us is amazing every day. And if we manage to open their eyes and ask the right questions, then they are scientists. And what our research says is every kid is a scientist, because what I was displaying to you, that is not something that needs to be taught. That is hardwired into the human brain. The human brain is a prediction machine. It wants to make predictions to keep us surviving. And if some of these predictions is wrong, I've faked it with this blue screen, you hopefully remember, because these moments of ooh, these are stored into our memory. That is a way to teach things, by have people wondering what is happening now. And they shouldn't be refused by this and repulsed by this. They should start to ask more questions. How did you do this? So how did you make this blue screen happen? How did you make ice forming in the air? This is the right form to ask questions. And another thing is, obviously, aesthetics is in the eye of the observer. So the next pictures of these movies would be a poodle grooming contest, and that will not be my form of aesthetics, but aesthetics is subjective. So now for the second part, a lot of these devices we have in our everyday surrounding are the work of designers. It is really important for everybody to come to solutions that are attractive to people. Maybe the design of products that had been solved, or maybe solutions for the pandemic. You know, the politicians have a hard work today. They are in a situation that is governed by science, and they have to develop solutions fast that are accepted by people. So you have to come to a feeling, what would be acceptable? Where can I attract people to follow me and to, for example, perform pandemic conform, to wear masks or whatsoever? And that is another thing we can teach in the STEM fields, and it's a big part of STEAM education, to together collaboratively form solutions that are acceptable by people everywhere. So now let's move on for 4 other minutes. I hope we are in time. Konstantin, do we have still 10 minutes of time?
I think we do have.
Cool. Okay, so let's move on to the second part of the video, which will start by 9:20. So there's already things inside that I've talked about here in personal. So let's move on.
Kids are here displayed their art. STEAM provides processes that help young kids connect to people and knowledge by creating things. And that is where the A comes into STEAM education. So STEAM education does not imply to pick just another subject to fit in your already scarce resources of teaching hours. It is not meant additive. Instead, it implements processes that are borrowed from arts and design into your STEM teaching. Most of these processes are iterative, hands-on and learning by doing, as a lot of good teaching processes in STEAM are anyway. In design thinking, for example, you start with interviewing or observing the target group to find needs and pain points. Try to make sense of your findings in your design team and create a prototype that needs to be tested and discussed with a target group. On the way, you find out how to work. In the use of science and technology, you solve real-world problems with your students and gather a deeper understanding of other people. A very inclusive process by design. Another process familiar to science education that is often successfully adopted in STEAM projects is the 5E cycle from Roger Bacon. Its 5 steps are engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. All these 5 steps deal with real-world problems and make for a very informative story that can be told by video, by poster, by podcast, displayed on websites, and can be told on science fairs. We have adopted the ISLE cycle from Eugenia Ekina, Alan van Heuvelen, and their team for STEAM teaching. Students use digital video to observe phenomena and look for patterns, and develop explanations that are discussed in classes and on YouTube. The explanations are experimentally tested not only for the predicted outcome, but also if the explanations are easy to understand by the audience. This video was developed together with students. It makes use of high-speed video to challenge assumptions and revise explanations. This is in alignment with the investigative science learning environment. Using the formula of momentum, I clearly explain why one single fifth stroke can by no way throw a human several meters away, like often seen in the movies. I just stand corrected or lie corrected after our Kung Fu Grandmaster delivers the 9-inch punch from routine to my body. Students in the lectures are expected to analyze the high-speed footage and come up with explanations. So, as you might have guessed by now, digital video is my tool of the trade when I speak of arts and science. Together with Daniel McIsaac, David Abbott, and Bradley Gerhardt, all in APT, we are driving the project Digital Video Projects for Student Physics Learning, which you might want to find on ResearchGate. Going into the open with your student project, asking for feedback and critique, and taking part in competitions is the normal in arts education, and it fits pretty good to science education too. It's interesting to see that a lot of international STEAM competitions these days are actually taking place in China. We have the STEAM International Challenge in South China, the MakeX competition, which is primarily robotics, and the large STEAMX competition in Shanghai. I am the jury of the latter two and invite everybody to send their student projects into the competition. Let me cite Grace Chai and Harrison Lewis from Michigan Youth Empowerment Foundation. They have already mentored 18 successful projects for the MakeX competition. Quote, based on the competition guide, we developed a 9-week plan for each student with instructions so they can clearly understand what they need to focus on each week. This plan is not only allowed adequate time for research and prototyping, but it's also included the training on poster design, public speaking, and video production. During the preparation, we only provided guidance for kids, as it is very important to let students take the lead and ownership of their projects. Now, raise your hands if you say that these skills are not what your students need. The STEAM approach originates from project of the US Nationals. Okay, so we have talked about that part already. As I said, you have the link to the video there, and a little bit, a little possibility to connect to me would be via the my channel. You see here that I have, in fact, a channel where I provide all these videos that I produce. I put the link to the channel in the chat, and you would do me a great pleasure if you would join this abo button. You perhaps now that you can connect to my research right there, and we have videos on everything that you have seen here. We have the measurement video, we have the Wing Chun video where I connect with this Master of Arts and explain physics by martial arts. We have a full introduction into energy and thermodynamics made by this principle. And these lectures in STEAM teaching cover in more depth the ISLE concepts, the POE method, and what's important for me in STEAM education. And the most important thing is Vygotsky, which is a fellow of your area as far as I know, and you have vastly informed my apology and my way of thinking. So yes, if you just would connect here, that would be a good way to connect. Okay, so I have to figure out how to stop my presentation right now. Perhaps I will just close the window. Okay, so, and we are back live. That was in a package, my way of think, and we had already really nice discussion in the chat, and that is very appreciated. So thank you again for connecting to me. And as I've written in the chat, now that a biologist talks to a physicist, how we can improve education and better teach physics and math and chemistry. That is just the way
STEAM is meant to be. We have taught the fields separately, biology, chemistry, math, and if you are deep inside the field, you understand the connections. But that is like Confucius said, if you are deep in the forest, and students are deep in the forest, trying to grapple the field of physics or chemistry, and they only see the trees around them. If you go all the way to the mountaintop, there from the mountaintop, you can see all the other paths that that lead to the mountaintop. When you are very advanced, you see the connections between the natural sciences and math. But we send our students in the woods and long, narrow paths, and that's where we lose a lot of students in the woods. And what we try to design is a plain field, like Bauhaus did with Gropius did with its approach, put them to a workplace and have to then bring their own tools and their own creativity, and let's create things together. And that's the way I want my students to learn my beloved physics and my beloved sciences. Thank you so very much for inviting me here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Володимир Петрович, вас не чути. У вас мікрофон не вимкнутий.
Thank you very much, dear Professor Andre Bresges. I see future our project.
Great, thank you for inviting me.
Тепер хочу сказати, що шановний професор Андре Брезгес успішно відповідає в чаті. Я бачу, в чаті також запитання встигає, бачите, молодець. От. І ви також звертайте увагу на чат всі, бо там є питання, є дискусія і буде протягом цих 3 днів, тому відповідайте, беріть участь і для вияснення нам істини в наших дослідженнях. І крім того, what questions? Задаємо запитання. Оксана Віталіївна.
Yes, thank you. I have a question. It's a very interesting set. Do you use this set in your professional activity? And if yes, how?
Yeah. Or I could...
maybe during, do you explain a little bit about?
Yeah, I could talk forever on this one. Perhaps I try to choose to display a short mural about how this would work. So I do again a screen share and try to figure out, yeah, that should be the right thing. So if you see this, that is called a mural. You see here a part of the video you just seen. So if I double click on it, the video will start at a given point, just the way I did it with you right now. Actually, I had a similar thing as bookmarks and went to my presentation that way. And the students are looking for 3 minutes into the video, and then comes the task. But I give them 10 minutes so they can see it again and rewind it, and they can translate in their own language, because we have a lot of people from Syria right now, refugees, and they enjoy that they can switch in YouTube to their own language and have the subtitles, so they get 10 minutes time to get acquired with what they see and understand the question. And then what you see perhaps here, I hope that was the right spot. Yes, here you see how I stand the test of the expert. What I'm explaining here was, okay, my fist only has a mass of 1 kilogram, and we have measured my fist, and I can accelerate it with about 4 meters per second, and that does not even shatter this man. And I believe in physics. I say, no, you can punch me and nothing will happen because I believe in physics. And what happens is, and you can see this in the in the time loop, yeah. Like you see the marking points here on his arms, and he's throwing this about 2 meters. So we are. That's a scale, you see, 2 meters. And now he's explaining something, and now you see with the camera, you see slow motion, and you see the time here on that scale, and you see the way the movement here followed. And that's how they worked on the data. So they should ask the question, how does it work? How can you throw away people? And what that they did here is from the video, they had the time scale to the right and the way of the fist upwards, and everybody and every student had to grab one value and put it on here. But to find the explanation for this magic, they try to figure out what does happen here. And when they have theories, we have these FETs from Boulder, Colorado. You guys know about them. You can again double click here and sorry again. Then the simulation starts. That was I guess the right one. Yeah, Colorado. So there's a simulation where they can play around with the values and say, okay, that could be the right explanation, and that could be the right version. So say they should create a short movie about how he managed to throw me away, using the simulation as their tool of the trade. And spoiler alert, the solution is I only calculated my fist, and he is putting in his wool weight. So he makes a step ahead, accelerates his wool body about 100 kilogram to 4 meters per second. So he has 100 times the momentum that I could do with my fist, but they have to figure it out by themselves. That's the inquiry learning thing. And they have to make a presentation, a video about how they assume that the right solution is. And at the end of the process, there were several movies on stage, so to speak. So they had to present their ideas, their solution to creation in sort of a science slam. And the publicum would get scores for the best explanation. That's how I use the videos for input, but I expect same creation as output.
Great, very, it's amazing.
Thank you. I will provide you the link to the mural in the chat. So if you use mural, it doesn't cost a thing, so you can just try it out for yourself. Please export visitor link, copy link. So everybody can try out. You have to register something perhaps, but it shouldn't cost a thing. It's right here in the chat.
And is it possible to see or to watch or use know this source? Yeah.
It's for you. That's why I provided.
I can try. Yeah.
Yes,
and show for our students we can do this. Thank you. Very interesting application.
Great.
And,
so if you have questions, just ask them in the comment section of the YouTube video.
Okay.
So that we can have a discussion around the topic. I really try to connect teams with you in Shanghai, Malaysia, and you will see discussion from people all around the world around a given video. So that's how I want to connect the STEAM community worldwide.
Worldwide environment, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Very interesting source. Thank you, Andre.
Good.
Thank you. Ще може якесь запитання?
I have one comment.
Доктор Костянтин Спортко, доктор Кьольнського університету і ще багатьох міжнародних структур, великий досвід зарубіжного стажування, наш видатний випускник, фізик, доктор фізико-математичних наук. Запитання.
I have rather a comment to your talk. First of all, thank you very much for interesting presentation. I'd like only to mention that this talk just made me thought about my education at school, how we were taught at school as children. And just want to say that I was lucky that in the last form of my secondary school, we had a teacher of physics who used this creativity approach in his lessons. So he has shown us different experiments without explanations, and we supposed to make a theory, to make an explanation during the lesson, and afterwards, at the end of the lesson, he thought, okay, now listen to me and I will tell you the truth. So it was like that in that time. Yeah. That is a comment to your presentation. Thanks.
Thank you. What I want to say is we have all of this already in place. Like flipped classroom, that's the modern way to put it. Flipped classroom approaches the students should do the learning and the talking, and the teacher is perhaps the guy who sets up the mistake, the move, and provides the end solution, something like this. We have this in place, and we have stopping for beauty. We already have showing pictures about rainbows and admiring the moon, the full and the half moon. It's already at the root of our education, and we as teachers did this. What I want to ask you is now put all these pieces together. You already can do this, and it makes much more fun to do this, and it inspires more students to do this. But still a lot of teachers say, okay, but I have to do this experiment because it belongs to physics. And I say, no, what belongs to physics is in your heart as a qualified teacher. And it is in the hearts of your students. So you already can do STEAM. You don't need to have big courses. You can do it. It just needs the information that it is, in fact, the right way to do it, because Konstantin, you are here. You were in Cologne, you are here. This curiosity, this asking questions, that have provide you a perfect physicist. And if you understand only this, you can create much more perfect physicists, chemists, biologists in and with your teaching.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ще які питання є? Якщо немає запитань, то прохання до доктора Шпортька Костянтина нам організувати зустріч або сьогодні, там десь пізніше, в Зумі трьох для обговорення питання подальшої співпраці, проєкту. Може і Оксана, пані Оксана, чотирьох, що там ми поговорили, які можливі варіанти співпраці між нашими університетами в цій галузі системи освіти.
Добре, я так думаю, що може має сенс зробити це вже після конференції, тому що
можливо так. Десь з понеділка давайте організуємо. Чотирьох от обговоримо, які можливі в нас варіанти, які в них, і може це по Erasmus+, може, подивимося.
Let me briefly translate to Andrea. So Professor Sergenko would like to offer to have a Zoom meeting with you and with me and with Dr. Oksana Strutinska after the conference to discuss the further ways of cooperation.
Perfect.
And, let's contact via email and arrange this meeting for the next week, probably when it suits to everyone.
Це ще цікаво з того боку, що поряд в нього факультет мистецтв, а у нас, шановні, міжнародна мистецька школа ХАБ, яка вже не дочекається відкриття кордонів, що перша поїздка в нас буде поближче, можливо, а можливо і Кьольн, але ми, скоріше всього, поближче поїдемо до професора Шебеня. 9 євро, там я вже всім розказую, автобус, і ми в нього в університеті. Але, скоріше всього, поїдемо, може, так, от виберемо ці два університети, ближче нам Ряшівський. Для, такого освітнього туризму, завчасного, там, за наші кошти і так далі. От, гуртожитки там цікаві, ну, можна все організувати. І ми так і мали робити вже. Але от ковід нам завадив.
Okay. Just
Для вчителів, мається на увазі для підвищення кваліфікації вчителів.
short translation. So we'd like to develop some kind of scientific tourism to visit our partners and to establish a cooperation between the universities in different countries. Just
Very well.
І факультет мистецтв, скажи йому.
and I told Professor Sigenko that in your building, where your institute is, one floor down is a faculty of music, as I remember.
And for
Up. So
Yeah.
very close physics and art, and so it makes a good combination.
I really belong there. Cologne is my city, my place to be. But yes, we have, I just posted in the chat, pre-conference to the German physics, to the DPG-Tagung. Perhaps you know this DPG, the education in Zoom. Perhaps just save the date, 17th of March 2022. I am responsible for organizing the pre-conference for the German Physics Society, which will take place from the 21st to the 25th March main conference in Heidelberg. Let's post everything in the chat. That could be a good thing that we could plan together. So at the pre-conference, Thursday before, everybody meets in Zoom, and it is in fact my task to set up international experts which want to showcase what they are doing, say in Kiev. So I could set you up there for an online presentation to get connected to the German physics education people. And for sure, would be happy to meet you in March in Heidelberg in persona. Heidelberg is a beautiful place to travel, I can really say. So that could be a good point to start.
Okay, thanks a lot, and let's put this point to our agenda for the Zoom meeting. Okay, good.
Thank you very much. Продовжуємо нашу роботу. Слово надається для доповіді нашому творчому колективу дружньому. Я згадав, ми з Володимиром будемо святкувати, Володимиром Шепенем, будемо десь там на початку 2022 року 30-річну таку діяльність спільну в теренах фізики, СТЕАМ освіти, співпраці.